Dancing with Change, the art of thriving through life's transitions. Welcome to the BlackCEO podcast. I'm your host, and today we're diving headfirst into the tumultuous waters of life's transitions. But don't worry, we've got a lifeline. The extraordinary wisdom of Sylvia Watkins. Sylvia isn't just an author, she's a beacon of hope, a guide through the stormy seas of change, and quite possibly a modern-day oracle. Her book, Beautiful, Navigating Through the Transitions of Life to Find the Real You, isn't just words on a page. It's a roadmap to self-discovery, a compass for the lost, and a warm hug for the weary soul. Sylvia Watkins isn't just changing lives. She's revolutionizing how we view change itself. Her impact ripples through communities, breaking down barriers and building bridges of understanding. She is the whisper of courage in the ears of those facing their greatest fears, the gentle nudge that propels us towards our true selves. In a world that often feels like it's spinning out of control, Sylvia is the steady hand on the wheel, guiding us towards a future where we don't just survive change, we thrive in it. Now, picture this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff. The wind is whipping through your hair, your heart is pounding like a drum solo at a rock concert, and your stomach is doing somersaults that would make an Olympic gymnast jealous. That, my friends, is what we call a life transition. Terrifying? Absolutely. Exhilarating? You bet. But what if I told you that this cliff isn't just a scary drop into the unknown, but a launch pad to your authentic self? Let's talk about Tammeca Rochester for a moment. Tammeca isn't just the owner of Harlem Cycle. She's a warrior in the battle against adversity. When the pandemic hit, it wasn't just a speed bump for her business. It was like someone had dropped the Alps in the middle of her road to success. Imagine this. You've poured your heart, soul, and probably a good chunk of your savings into your dream business. You've got the momentum of a freight train, customers are flooding in, and life is good. Then, bam! A global pandemic hits, and suddenly your bustling cycling studio looks more like a ghost town with very expensive stationary bikes. Now, Tammeca could have thrown in the towel, cursed the universe, and binged Netflix for the next year, and honestly, who would blame her? But that's not Tammeca's style. No, sir. Instead, she looked at this pandemic-shaped lemon and thought, time to open a lemonade stand. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Tammeca realized something crucial. She didn't just need a seat at the table. She needed to be in the room where the table was being built. She started reaching out, networking like her business depended on it because, well, it did. She was knocking on doors, sending emails, probably carrier pigeons for all we know, anything to get her foot in the door. And you know what? It worked. Tammeca didn't just survive the pandemic. She thrived, she adapted, she evolved, and she came out stronger on the other side. Her story isn't just about business success. It's a masterclass in resilience, adaptability, and the sheer power of embracing change. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's great for Tammeca, but my life isn't a business. I can't just pivot my personality like it's a marketing strategy. And you're right. Personal transitions are a whole different ballgame. But that's where Sylvia Watkins' wisdom really shines. Sylvia teaches us that life transitions aren't just events that happen to us. They're processes. They're like those caterpillars that turn into butterflies. You don't just wake up one day with wings. Wouldn't that be something? No, it's a process of breaking down and rebuilding. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, and sometimes it feels like you're turning into goo. But on the other side, that's where the magic happens. Think about it. How many times have you resisted change because you were afraid of losing yourself? But what if that resistance was actually holding you back from becoming your true self? It's like holding onto a pair of training wheels when you're ready to race in the Tour de France. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah isn't just a name I pulled out of thin air. She's a real person who went through a transition that would make most of us want to crawl under the covers and never come out. Sarah had been at her job for 15 years. 15 years, that's longer than some people keep their houseplants alive. This job wasn't just her career, it was her identity, her second home, well, you get the picture. Then one day, poof, the job was gone, just like that. Sarah found herself standing in the unemployment line, feeling like she'd just been voted off her own island. She was lost, scared, and pretty sure the universe was playing some kind of cruel joke on her. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of letting Sarah wallow in self-pity, which, let's be honest, we've all done at some point, her therapist, Christine, threw her a lifeline. But it wasn't just any lifeline. It was more like a trampoline that Sarah could use to bounce back higher than she'd ever been before. Christine introduced Sarah to something called a growth mindset. Now, I know what you're thinking. Growth mindset sounds like some new age, kale, smoothie drinking, yoga at sunrise nonsense. But stick with me here. This growth mindset thing, it's like putting on a pair of magic glasses that turn every obstacle into an opportunity. Sarah started small. She didn't wake up the next day and solve world hunger. No, she started by setting aside a little time each day to get to know herself again. She pulled out a journal, probably dusting it off first. Let's be real, who actually uses those things regularly? And started writing. She wrote about her fears, like the fear of never finding another job or the fear of having to move back in with her parents at 45. Nightmare fuel, am I right? But she also wrote about her dreams, dreams she'd forgotten she had, dreams that had been buried under 15 years of TPS reports and office birthday cakes. And you know what? Something magical started to happen. As Sarah practiced self-compassion, which is just a fancy way of saying stop being so darn hard on yourself, she started to see her situation differently. This job loss wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. Sarah rediscovered old passions she'd long forgotten. She learned new skills. Turns out you can teach an old dog new tricks. Not that Sarah's old, of course. And eventually, she found a new career path that aligned more with who she really was, not just who she thought she should be. Sarah's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes life throws us curveballs. But with the right mindset, we can turn those curveballs into home runs. And yes, I'm quite proud of that sports metaphor. Thank you very much. Now, let's talk about something that might make some of you squirm in your seats. It's a little thing called asking for help. Asterisk gasp. Asterisk, I know. The mere thought of it probably makes some of you break out in hives, but hear me out. There's this guy named Mike. Mike was going through a divorce. Now, divorces are never fun, unless you're a divorce lawyer, I suppose. But Mike decided he was going to handle it all on his own. He was going to be strong. He was going to be a rock. He was going to have a complete meltdown, as it turns out. See, Mike thought asking for help was a sign of weakness. He thought he needed to be Superman for his kids. But here's the thing. Even Superman had the Justice League. And last time I checked, none of us are flying around in capes, unless that's your thing, in which case you do you. Mike was drowning. He was trying to juggle work, kids, lawyers, and his own emotional turmoil, all while pretending everything was fine. Spoiler alert, it wasn't fine. It was about as far from fine as you can get without actually spontaneously combusting. But then Mike did something revolutionary, something so out there, so radical that it changed everything. Are you ready for this? He asked for help. I know, mind-blowing, right? He started seeing a therapist. He joined a support group for divorced parents. Turns out there are a lot of them out there. He even, brace yourselves, opened up to his friends about what he was going through. And you know what? The sky didn't fall. The earth didn't open up and swallow him whole. Instead, something amazing happened. With this support network in place, Mike started to heal. He learned coping strategies that didn't involve binge watching Netflix and eating his weight in ice cream. Although, let's be honest, sometimes that's necessary too. He became more resilient, not just in dealing with the divorce, but in facing all of life's challenges. But the most beautiful part? By allowing others to support him, Mike was teaching his kids a valuable lesson. He was showing them that it's okay to be vulnerable, that asking for help isn't weakness, it's strength. He was modeling resilience in a way that no amount of toughing it out ever could. So, what does all this mean for you? Well, I want you to do something for me right now. Yes, right now. Don't worry, I'll wait. I want you to think about a transition you're facing. Maybe you're thinking about changing careers. Maybe you're about to become a parent for the first time. Maybe you're moving to a new city where you don't know a soul, whatever it is. Hold that transition in your mind. Now, here's where it gets fun. I want you to imagine that this transition isn't a roadblock. It's not a stop sign. It's a starting line. What if, instead of dreading this change, you embraced it? What if you looked at it and said, bring it on, universe, show me what you got? I can almost hear some of you thinking, easy for you to say, you don't know what I'm going through. And you're right, I don't. But I do know this. Every single person who has ever done anything great has faced transitions, challenges, and changes. The difference is in how they approach them. So Here's your challenge. I want you to develop a growth mindset around this transition. Instead of focusing on what you might lose, I want you to obsess about what you might gain. What new skills could you develop? What parts of yourself might you discover or rediscover? How could this transition make you even more awesome than you already are? And here's the kicker. I want you to reach out for support. I don't care if it's a therapist, a friend, a support group, or your neighbor's cat, although I recommend someone who can actually talk back. The point is, don't go through this alone. Remember, even Superman had the Justice League. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought from the incredible Sylvia Watkins. She reminds us that every transition, no matter how challenging, is an opportunity to become more authentically ourselves. It's a chance to shed the layers of who we think we should be and step into who we truly are. So here's my call to action for you. I dare you, no, I double dog dare you to embrace your transitions. Face them with the courage of a warrior, the curiosity of a scientist, and the compassion of a best friend. Seek support when you need it and offer support to others when you can. Remember, life isn't about avoiding the storms. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And trust me, once you learn that dance, which is you'll never want to stop. So go out there and embrace your transitions. Turn your challenges into trampolines. Transform your obstacles into opportunities. And above all, remember that you have within you the strength, the resilience, and the sheer awesomeness to not just survive life's transitions, but to absolutely rock them. Thank you for joining me on this wild ride. Now go out there and show the world what you're made of because trust me, it's something spectacular. Until next time, keep growing, keep evolving, and for goodness sake, keep embracing those beautiful, messy, incredible transitions that make life worth living. The world is waiting for the authentic you. So, what are you waiting for? Go get them, Tiger.